The debris field around Proxima Outpost 7 looked like a broken necklace scattered across the void, silent, glittering, and to the Ithari Assembly, utterly incomprehensible. Counselor Osrin Kale stood at the observation deck of the Assembly cruiser Whisper of Consensus, staring at the wreckage of what had, 6 hours earlier, been 3 warships of the Drenn Compact. Now they were confetti. "Run it again," Osrin said. Lieutenant Vashti Oren, his tactical officer, didn't look up from her console. "I've run it 4 times, Counselor. The result doesn't change. A single projectile. No warhead. No plasma signature. It simply arrived. At 11% of light speed. That's not possible." It happened anyway. Osrin had spent 30 years in the Assembly's diplomatic corps, and in that time he had developed a very particular skill. The ability to look directly at evidence and file it under anomaly requires further study instead of problem, and requires immediate action. It was a skill shared by most of the Assembly's leadership, and it was about to cost them everything. For months earlier, on a dusty stretch of Nevada test range that didn't officially exist on any map, Dr. Ellen Marsh watched a 7-ton sled of solid tungsten disappear down a magnetic rail and vanish into the horizon in under 2 seconds. "Report," she said into her headset. "Impact confirmed," came the voice of Major Ray Delgado, standing 40 miles downrange with a spotting team and a very large hole in the ground to prove it. "Ma'am, it went through the target and the mountain behind it." Ellen allowed herself the smallest smile. 6 years of budget fights, 6 years of politicians calling railguns a Cold War fantasy, 6 years of watching foreign observers snicker at American big gun obsessions, and now the numbers didn't lie. 6,200 kilometers per second. No propellant. No warhead needed. Just mass magnetism and math. "Get Bishop on the line," she said. "Tell him Excalibur is ready." Humanity had made first contact 18 months prior, not through some grand diplomatic gesture, but because a Drenn scout ship had drifted into the outer solar system to map primitive Type 0 civilizations, and gotten a very rude surprise when Earth's deep space tracking network picked it up before it even reached Jupiter. The Assembly's first envoys arrived expecting what they always found: a species overjoyed to be uplifted, eager to trade their crude chemical rockets for galactic technology, grateful for guidance. What they found instead was General Thomas Bishop, sitting across a conference table in Geneva, arms crossed, listening to an alien named Counselor Osrin Kale explain, with real condescension, that humanity's weapons were quaint, but obsolete by a margin of several centuries, and that the planet would be far safer once it accepted Assembly Protectorate status and disarmed accordingly. The bishop had said very calmly, "We'll take that under advisement." Then he'd gone back to the Pentagon and greenlit every railgun program that had ever been shelved for being too expensive, too impractical, or too unnecessary in the age of precision munitions. Because here was the thing the Assembly never understood about humans: tell them their toys are obsolete and they don't get discouraged. They get curious, and then they get very good at making the toy work. The Drenn Compact, the Assembly's designated enforcers, the ones who did the convincing when diplomacy stalled, arrived at Proxima Outpost 7 to remind the Americans stationed there that their railgun tests were, by Assembly treaty, illegal experimentation with kinetic weapons of mass regional destruction. Commander Alicia Reyes, station chief, had been expecting them for 2 weeks. "You have 4 hours to power down your kinetic platform and surrender the technology for Assembly review." The Drenn envoy's translated voice buzzed through the calm. "Failure to comply will be treated as hostile intent." Reyes looked at her XO, a wiry Kentucky native named Danny Okafor, who was doing a truly heroic job of not laughing. "Copy that," Reyes said into the calm deadpan. "We'll get right on that." Then she hung up and turned to the room. "Danny, wake up Excalibur." The thing about a railgun that the Assembly never grasped, because their entire military doctrine was built on shields, point defense lasers, and shipboard armor tuned to stop plasma and energy weapons, was that none of that mattered against a chunk of tungsten moving at a meaningful fraction of light speed. Shields designed to disperse energy didn't know what to do with pure kinetic momentum. Armor designed to absorb heat didn't stop something that punched a tunnel straight through before the heat even had time to matter. The Drenn cruisers had shields rated to stop a direct nuclear detonation. They lasted exactly as long as it took Outpost 7's rail cannon to cycle 3 times. The first shot took the lead cruiser broadside, entering through the port hull and exiting through the starboard side 4 kilometers later, taking the ship's spine, half its crew quarters, and its entire command deck with it in a straight, silent line. The crew never even registered an alarm. There simply wasn't time. The second and third shots caught the support vessels attempting to flee, punching clean through engine cores that weren't built to survive being hit by anything that didn't announce itself first with a heat signature, a radiation spike, or basic manners. 90 seconds. 3 warships. 0 survivors. Back on the whisper of consensus, Counselor Osrin Kale finally understood what Vashti had been trying to tell him. "They're not using energy weapons," he said slowly. "No, Counselor. They're throwing rocks at us. At a significant fraction of light speed. Essentially, yes. And our shields aren't designed to stop mass. They're designed to stop energy. A railgun slug isn't an energy weapon. It's just very fast metal." Vashti's voice had gone flat, the particular flatness of someone who has just realized her entire species built its military doctrine on a blind spot the size of a moon. "We've been warned about this for 4 months, Counselor. 3 separate intelligence reports. All 3 were filed as low priority." Osrin remembered those reports. He remembered dismissing them. Primitive species developing conventional kinetic platforms, no cause for elevated concern. He'd signed off on that assessment himself. "Get me a channel to Earth," he said quietly. Immediately. General Bishop took the call from the Situation Room, Dr. Marsh and Major Delgado flanking him, the footage from Proxima 7 still looping silently on the side screen. Osrin Kale's hologram flickered into existence, and for the first time in 18 months of negotiations, the counselor's practiced diplomatic composure was nowhere to be found. "General Bishop, we need to discuss the events at Outpost 7. "We can discuss it," Bishop said. "But I think the footage speaks pretty clearly for itself. 3 vessels. 62 crew. Your government will need to account for." "Counselor." The bishop's voice didn't rise. "Didn't need to. Your ships arrived at a sovereign human outpost, issued an ultimatum backed by a threat of force, and gave us 4 hours to disarm and surrender our technology or be treated as hostile. We complied with exactly the terms you set. We just did it faster than you expected." Silence on the line. "For 18 months, Bishop continued, we've been called primitive, quaint, obsolete. You've told us over and over that our weapons don't matter, that our military doesn't matter, that our sovereignty is a formality you'll get around to respecting once you've finished deciding how much of our solar system to annex. We told you over and over that we'd defend what's ours. You filed it under low priority." Dr. Marsh spoke up, quiet but steady. "Physics doesn't care about your assessment reports, Counselor. Mass times velocity squared doesn't negotiate." Osrin Kale stared at the humans on his screen, not gloating, not celebrating, just standing there with the calm, immovable certainty of a species that had just proven in 90 seconds exactly what it had been telling the galaxy for a year and a half. "What do you want?" he finally asked. Bishop leaned forward. "Recognition. Full sovereignty, full assembly membership on equal terms, not protectorate status. And you're going to want to update your shield doctrine, Counselor, because we've got a lot more rail than we've used so far." The transmission ended. In the Situation Room, nobody cheered. Bishop simply turned to Delgado and said, "Get Excalibur's production numbers on my desk by morning." Outside, in orbit and beyond, the debris field around Proxima 7 kept drifting, a quiet, glittering warning to anyone still inclined toward denial. Humanity hadn't asked for a seat at the galaxy's table. It had just built one out of tungsten, and set it down hard enough that no one would ever mistake the sound for a knock again.